Hello and welcome to what will be the Join Dota League Season 5 Europe Division 2 in a best of 2 series between Elysium Gaming and 4 Friends plus Trilly. Unfortunately, we did have somebody not connect into the lobby or into the actual game itself, so we are going to be back towards the lobby screen and hopefully we'll be able to load in very shortly. As always, I'm Grandis V, and this is going to be a HeflaTV presentation of these games, so hopefully this is going to be enjoyable for everybody. As far as both of these teams are concerned, I haven't seen them play for quite some time in Elysium. Not in any recent memory. In 4 Friends with Trilly, it's been a month or so since I've actually seen them in action, and actually cast them is a completely different story entirely. Not since the last Join Dota League season, which unfortunately for them didn't turn out as they might have hoped. But it should be an interesting game at the very least. We'll have to see how both teams are going to perform. Also, unfortunately, I don't have a co-caster with me today, but hopefully it won't be too bad, and we should be able to enjoy some good Dota. I'm very interested to see what these teams are going to bring to the table, and hopefully it's something a little bit peculiar. We do have a lot of spectators loading into this game, so hopefully that doesn't mess up anything. But for right now, we'll just wait until the draft gets underway. Some definitely familiar names on the 4 Friends plus Trilly's side, but for Elysium, not a team that I've really been following that much. I believe they are an all-French lineup and should be interesting. Looks like they have one stand-in, Pop Pop. I have no idea who that is or if he's going to be sticking around with the team, but these are their official tags currently. This isn't a ticketed game, unfortunately enough, so you can't actually watch inside the in-game client. And it also means that they had to manually change their names to their official spots. So this is currently just all of the names that they are going to be running with, and whether they like it or not, that's what I'm going to call them. Whether I mispronounce it or not is another story entirely. We'll open things up with 4 Friends plus Trilly, banning out the Troll Warlord, never so popular hero, especially in pubs as of late, and the Juggernaut Brewmaster ban from Elysium, also looking pretty darn vanilla. For now, it's really unlikely we're going to see anything super off the wall. Let's see what 4 Friends plus Trilly are going to be most scared of Elysium picking up in that first pick slot. There's still plenty of really high-tier heroes and powerhouse heroes at that. They'll take out the Wisp, not wanting to deal with that global presence, and a hero that can be very comfortable but for specific teams. But then again, Axe is going to be left in the pool, and Elysium will snag that up for themselves. After a long period of obscurity where Axe was just kind of a fringe pick, every once in a while a team would fall back on him and it was something really exciting. I can't say it's not exciting now, but definitely something that's more in the now and more picked up. Axe is very, very popular, mostly because of his ability to pretty much be laned anywhere and still be able to get a decent amount. Mid lane Axe has been showing up here and there. Off lane Axe, aggressive tri-lane, safe lane farming, jungle Axe. There's a lot of different ways that you can throw this hero and still make him work. It really feels like he is incredibly strong. Can get up that blink dagger, great timing, and then put so much pressure on the enemy team where they're just really not prepared to deal with the Axe of Axe. And well, let's see what they're going to do on the enemy side about it. They're going to open things up with a Viper, a decent way to kite around that hero, but more than anything, just 4 Friends plus Trilly. Opening up with yeah, just opening up with a really standard laning hero. And they'll follow that up with a Witch Doctor. Another one of these supports that really is very nice to have on your side. Ancient Apparition, the pickup for Elysium. Although there is a decent amount of sustain, potentially a mechanism coming out from Viper and the Voodoo Restoration from the Witch Doctor shut down with the AA. More than anything, it feels like it's just Ancient Apparition for the sake of Ancient Apparition. That's completely fine. Global ganking with the Axe Blink Dagger, as well as with a Ice Blast coming out from the AA is incredibly scary to deal with, and that kill threshold gets very, very scary. Your HP pool, although maybe it looks pretty comfortable when you're dealing with an Axe Culling Blade and Ice Blast from the Ancient Apparition, it is not going to be what it seems. You'll be cut through like a hot knife through butter. 4 Friends plus Trilly, it really seems like they kind of need to win their lanes to really be effective. But right now, both teams have a lot of flexibility where it comes to how they actually want to play this game. Although they have some nice standard heroes that work pretty well in most lineups, they also don't lend themselves towards any particular style of play. Axe can be played super aggressive early on, or even just as a utility initiator throughout the entire game, securing some space for a more heavy farmer. It's really up to Elysium what they want to use with this, and a similar story for Four Friends plus Trilly. Aghanim Scepters on these two supports will be wonderful boons for their team, and maybe we'll even see a Midas pickup from the Ancient Apparition. That is definitely not unheard of, and can work pretty nicely for you. But level 11 ultimates from both of these with Aghanim Scepters are absolutely game-breaking. Although Axe is going to have a decent amount of armor behind him, it does not protect you entirely from the Death Ward and the vast amount of damage it's able to pump out with that balancing effect from the Aghanim Scepter. Abaddon going to ban out from Elysium, even though they do have an Axe to somewhat deal with the Abaddon and his ultimate later on in the game, especially. It still would have been annoying to deal with a Viper plus Abba, a lot of sustain, and even with an Ancient Apparition Ice Blast at their disposal, wouldn't be 100% shut down, and still would be annoying to deal with, especially at the early portions of this game. 4FC, gonna ban out the Skywrath Mage, and just another solid support. The Vengeful Spirit probably going to see some sort of ban or pick in the next stage, or at least I would expect. Combos decently well with the AA, as well as with the Witch Doctor or both, and cancels the Witch Doctor's channeling very effectively, can defensively swap away from Axe, and just a really nice hero to have on your side. A lot of utility that's offered from that hero, and would open up the Roshan pit quite nicely for 4FC in particular, since they are on the dire side. Nature's Prophet, the ban from Elysium. Not exactly sure what warrants this ban. They have a decent way to catch him out with the blinking axes, as well as to pump in damage into the Nature's Prophet with the Ancient Apparition Ice Blast. So maybe it's just not wanting to go up against some sort of Nature's Prophet lichen cheese coming out from 4FC. Death Prophet going to be banned out from 4FC themselves, securing themselves a safer mid lane, and also stopping a mid-game timing push coming out from Elysium that could be very threatening, or at least mitigating the effects thereof. 4FC. If they want to just go for one of their supports, the Vengeful Spirit I was talking about earlier is absolutely fine, but there's a plethora of options at their disposal, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised by most picks here for 4FC. There really isn't anything that immediately jumps to mind that it's mandated that they need to pick up. Faceless Void's still there if they want to go for it, even though you would be dealing with an Ancient Apparition on the enemy side that could very easily land an Ice Blast onto the Chrono. You have a Death Ward at your disposal to pump damage even before Faceless Void builds into some pretty major damage items, and could be some nice teamfight control that they would like to have Supremacy, especially as the game draws later. Alrighty then. We'll just have to see what 4FC are going to snag up. 30 seconds is the reserve time for them. And it is going to really flavor the rest of the draft, this next pick. Or hopefully it does. If they just go for one support, maybe that would be a little bit disappointing. Well, for 13 seconds, it's going to be an Enchantress. Picked up last. The health pool on this hero is not very attractive, and even though most heroes with physical damage can't really cut through, that untouchable axe is one of the exceptions. If you catch out the Enchantress, especially if she's clumped up with her creeps, you can get a couple spins and then dunk her down very early on. 4FC feels like they want to go aggressive, but these two supports especially are incredibly susceptible to being axe dunked and really punished if they don't get some good momentum under their feet. Enchantress is a very interesting choice from 4FC, and I'm interested to see how they utilize it. Not one that's extremely popular among most circles, but well, should be interesting nonetheless. For Elysium, let's see what their course of action is going to be this time around. We'll have to really see where they throw these lanes. Ancient Apparition in some way, shape, or form should be played as a support, and X probably going to be receiving an amount of core farm, but where that is has still yet to be seen. Thrown in the offlane solo could be in for a bit of a rude awakening with some Enchantress ganks, as well as being up against the potential Witch Doctor Viper Enchantress lane. For Elysium, however, maybe they want to go very hard into the global ganking strategy, and Invoker is available for them, and that wouldn't be a terrible pick, although it's not the most conventional. An Exert Invoker could work pretty nicely, offering them a lot of damage. On top of called units, it's kind of like a poor man's RP, or you can call it that. Ogre Magi is actually going to pick up for Elysium, and after really seeing a lot of play a couple months ago, has really fallen out of favor, but I do quite like the hero still, even after receiving some pretty heavy nerfs. It is a lot of fun to watch, and if the luck is with you, you can easily 100-0 the Witch Doctor and Edge. Fire Blast also going to be really annoying for 4FC and gives them some early gaming punching power to combat the similar power of 4FC supports. Ancient Apparition comboed with the Ogre Magi, although most melee heroes don't benefit from Chilling Touch that much, Boots First Ogre Magi definitely can. 4FC will snag up the Magnus for themselves, and although it's not the Chronosphere I was talking about earlier with the Witch Doctor Death Ward comboed with it, the dream is real for an Academ Scepter Witch Doctor Death Ward channeled into RP. That could be a ridiculous combination if they're able to pull it off or find that opening, and it's going to make their high ground defense incredibly solid. With a blinking Magnus, it's always very scary to go up high ground, and although they probably don't want to be in that situation, it's always something nice to have at your disposal. For their 5th pick, however, 4FC, feels like they want to pick up something to really heavily abuse that Empower. Although an Empowered Viper is nice and all, I suppose, it's not anything compared to a melee carrier or a Deuce is somebody that's getting a lot of benefit from that 50% bonus damage and cleaving it through the entire enemy team. Ember Spirit feels like it could be a pretty decent choice, although it would be up against an Ogre and Axe that could very easily chop him down. I think 4FC could make enough space for him to make it work, and if it's something they're comfortable with running, maybe that's going to be the course of action. Mirana's pickup for Elysium. Very interesting. It's going to have some decent setup for the arrow early on with the Fire Blast, but it's pretty lackluster. For the most part, these Mirana arrows are going to be more or less free-handed, maybe with a little bit of stunning action coming out from the Ogre and potentially the Axe, but it looks like they want to give this Mirana some farm. It's a nice range carry to have at their disposal to benefit from the Chilling Touch of the AA, and a very potent tri-lane at that, but definitely a throwback to times previous with the Ogre and Mirana. Yeah, not exactly sure if I'm entirely behind this. It's pretty much going to cede the fact that 4FC are going to have a scarier late game, even though all of the supports in this game scale very well with farm. Don't get me wrong, Aghanim Scepters on all 4 of them are likely to come out at some time or point if they can actually find the items for them. Or find the gold for them, excuse me. But even so, Mirana and Axe, although they have a very potent mid-game and can be very scary to go up against if they have a lot of farm, aren't necessarily the scariest of heroes. 4FC will ban out the puck, and it probably would have been a decent pickup for Elysium, just getting that mid-game initiation supremacy over the enemy team. And Razor's actually going to be a ban from Elysium. Not exactly sure if that would have been the course of action for 4FC. I really would like to see something along the lines of that Ember Spirit still. 4FC. We'll have to see what they're going to settle on. It's probably going to be an offlane Magnus, but if they're still lacking an offlane hero for themselves, if they really want to go whole hog and just jumping into the enemy team, Batrider is there if they really want to snag that up. But with an Enchantress in the jungle, going to be a little bit less attractive. They will go for an Elemental Spirit, but not the one I was thinking about. It's actually going to be a Storm for 4FC. The Magnus, usually picked up for the ability to have Empower at your disposal. This game, although it's going to be useful, isn't going to be the main reason for the Mag. It's all about that RP, all about that skewer. And we'll have to see if he's going to be able to perform. 4FC, the Storm Spirit, is going to offer them a nice tool to start fights on their own terms. With a Blinking Magnus and a Jumping Storm Spirit, there's a lot of different ways that both teams have at their disposal to start fights. And we'll have to see who's going to be able to pick up the momentum early on. Elysium, it feels like theirs, at least early on, is a little bit more reliant on luck. And with the Wind Ranger, that's not really an exception. Although you can have an incredibly skilled Wind Ranger throwing off left and right shackles that seemingly never-endingly connect. It really feels like Elysium are going to be more up to chance play, or at the very least, very high-skilled play to actually get things to work out. Even though Magnus is not the easiest of heroes to play, RP is a pretty decent realm of hit or miss. Or not hit or miss, but oh my goodness, I'm not sure what I was trying to say, but it's a lot more forgiving. And worst case scenario, you're probably going to hit like 1 or 2 heroes, and that's never a bad thing, especially when you have the follow-up that they do. Should be an interesting game. I like 4FC's lineup quite a bit better. I think all of their lanes are more or less solid. The Wind Ranger isn't going to be shut down, neither is the Axe or Mirana. But then again, I don't think the pressure they're able to put onto 4FC is really going to be up to snuff. Well, that said, let's see how they're going to be able to perform, and best of hope towards them. Axe going to be played by Saren on the Elysium side. We're going to have Propolo going to be playing on the Wind Ranger, covered on the Ancient Apparition. Mirana handled by Pop-Pop. And leaving last but not least, our Ogre Magi handled by Hugo. On the dire side of the map, 4 friends plus Trilly. Pablo going to be playing on the Storm Spirit, Strange Bee on the Viper, Steph Style on the Enchantress, Eris Loco on the Witch Doctor, and last but not least, Magnus, handled by the team's namesake, Trilly. GGGL is going to come out from Elysium, as Magnus does secure himself a deep ward to spot out support rotations, and it feels like it might be unlikely to be dewarded. He get in there very deep without being spotted immediately with those boots first onto the mag. They are going to guess it, and well, unfortunately for the mag, they are going to be able to get that in range of the observer. A little bit further towards the south would mean that that observer would stick, but then again, that would involve Magnus showing his face. So unfortunately, he's going to be going into this blind, and it's a scary lane to go up against blind. If you have the Mirana fishing for some arrows, if Trilly gets caught out by that, or Fire Blast into arrow, vice versa, the power of Ancient Apparition, Chilling Touch also can't be underestimated. The mag is very easily going to give up first blood. He'll bump into Hugo, but that's not a man fight that the mag really wants to take, and looks like he's just going to concede. The bottom bounty rune as his team takes the one up towards top with Viper and company. Strange Bee going to get that extra gold up towards top, or Pop Pop gets the extra gold down towards bottom. Solo offlane Axe going to run into similar problems with the Magnus, although maybe not as much. It really depends all about this Enchantress, and it's a hero that I'd love to just watch non-stop throughout this game. See where Steph Style goes, at least for the first couple minutes, to try and make space for the rest of the team, or try to have an impact. This is really where Enchantress starts to shine. When you get 2 creeps this early on, the enemy team has very little tools at their disposal to actually deal with it. Pablo going to get the shorter half of his stick when it comes to actually blocking in the middle lane up against the Wind Ranger, so might suffer a little bit as far as CS is concerned, and Wind Ranger should have an innate advantage in this lane, but Pablo isn't going to be shut down by any stretch of the imagination. As far as getting experience, and he should be able to get his bottle up at a good click. Actually, went for an old talisman first. Both of these mid players going for pretty much the same build. So maybe I spoke too soon. His bottle is going to be delayed quite a bit, unless this gank coming out from Steph Style works out. Smoked up. He does have the troll on the Enchantress to lock down this Wind Ranger, but with Wind Run, it's not going to be the easiest of kills by any means, especially Purpolo doesn't drop low beforehand, and right now Pablo just isn't in any situation to actually trade blows, and Enchantress, well, going to go for the full wraparound, smoke popping, looking for the net, going to slow him down a little bit. Purpolo is going to be netted down to the ground. I don't think this is going to be kill with Wind Run. It looks like Purpolo is just going to be able to make it back under his tower. Gank, unfortunately, for 4 friends plus Trilly is not going to succeed. A little bit hopeful. Usually you'd want to wait until you have 2 creeps before going for that, and the Wind Ranger not the easiest of targets to go for. And it also frees up Axe a little bit up in this top lane to trade blows with the Witch Doctor. 0 base armor hero up against an Axe. Can't say that Axe can really be much happier. But Magnus definitely could. The Axe has found himself level 2.5, where Trilly has been very effectively zoned out. The Enchantress pokes her face into the aggressive jungle and finds herself an Ogre Magi. Although she's able to snag another Dark Troll Summoner, and a great creep it is to have. It probably isn't going to be making much happen. Honestly, the Enchantress probably would have been better served just stacking up and farming, just based on how these first couple of ganks have gone. But is that really a reason to stop? We'll see. Haste Rune on the Enchantress might be enough to set something up. Let's see who's going to be able to secure it. They'll place a high ground ward in mid. No, for now, nobody's actually going to claim it. The bottle is up for the Storm Spirit. It looks like they want to wait until he has that available to him, and the bottle is not actually up on the Wind Ranger. Purpolo is at a slight CS disadvantage, which is going to be very nice for Pablo inside this mid lane. Ancient Apparition very deep behind enemy lines is going to be pulling a range creep behind him, so it is going to give the enemy team vision of him. They're hunting for Trilly. They can't find him yet. He has a shockwave at the disposal, but this Magnus needs to be so careful, treading very lightly down in this bottom lane. If any disable lands onto him, Fire Blast into arrow. If the arrow connects, it's pretty much a dead mag. Alrighty then, Edge is going to go back into the jungle. Doesn't find a great ganking creep, so it is just going to be a little bit of farm for Steph Style. And it's definitely not going to be the fastest jungle farm, but at the very least, it's something that they can fall back on. Haste Rune is going to be secured by Pablo, and with 1 point to the pool, might be able to find a kill. Although for now, Purple is a little too healthy, and without outside help, it's not really going to be an option. But then again, ganking the Storm Spirit's going to be very difficult. Once he gets his level 6, especially Haste Rune and level 6 on Storm means you're pretty much not touching him unless you get the Godly of all shackles, and you have to rotate in the Mirana or somebody else for that matter. Whole operation is going to be continued by the Radiant supports as they get some farm under tower for the Mirana and completely deny Magnus anything out of this bottom lane. He has level 3, but that's about all he is going to be able to get, at least for now. It's matched by Axe's level 3, but then again, Axe at least has something to fall back on, and the lane is pushing into him, so we'll be able to get some experience under tower, although his tower is going to sustain some pretty significant damage. He'll be tagged by a poison attack, now netted down with the concussive shot flying through. He has backup from the Ogre, but is it enough? Saris Locus dropping low to the tower, but with the constant slows applied to the Axe, he can't actually stick, and now they look towards Hugo with a haste rune and double damage on the Storm Spirit. He's going to obliterate the Ogre in a double kill for Strange B. All it took was a little bit of misstep coming out from the Axe, and it's going to secure first blood for 4FC. And very easily, too. The Courier is going to crow his bottle, and Storm Spirit could not really be happier. They do leave the Wind Ranger alone in lane, but only for a little bit. Not really much else, and they get a tier 1 tower after the fact. Steph Style, after a long period of passivity, or not really finding much of anything out of this map, finds a kill, and you can't really ask for much more, especially when it's a first blood on your safe lane farming carry. And they're not going to stop the push here. Tier 2 tower down in the top lane is going to take some pretty significant pressure. The Fire Blast flies out from the Ogre, but without level 6, not going to have any AoE to it and just be really annoying for Eris Loco. Nothing a couple tangos can't fix. They won't be able to take this tower, but at the very least they'll put some damage into it. At the same time, Axe is picking up a little bit of the slack when it comes to levels, but 4FC find themselves a nice little nook inside this game to really be comfortable. The Mirana, although it's nice to have farm on this hero, isn't as explosive as most other ones, even when you do get a lot of farm. And really the power of the hero is mostly in those early levels of Arrow. Pablo going to need a power shot inside the mid lane. The Enchantress poked her face here, as did the Ogre, but for now nobody's actually doing much of anything. The Enchant's just going to go back over into the creep wave and use a melee creep snag from the top lane to farm up a handful more creeps. We've slowed down a little bit as the actual rotation power is mostly in the hands of 4FC, and they've decided that their time would be better spent just passively farming. It's going to be an Erd build. For the Enchantress after the boots, I thought Stepstyle might be saving up for a Midas at some point. Well, it looks like he's decided against that course of action. Wind Ranger going to get the bounty rune up towards top, and Ancient Apparition secures the Elu down towards bottom, denying the Storm Spirit from having that extra bit of help towards himself. Pull back onto the Illusion, going to waste more mana than anything. For Pablo, it's a little bit of bait from the Ancient Apparition, but now he definitely knows that there is no rune there for him to secure. The advantage towards either side at this point is pretty limited, and it really feels like we're just waiting on these offlaners to really pick up the slack before they're able to do much of anything. We have Arcane Boots on the Magnus, and that's about it. The Axe is going to be saving up towards his Blink. He has the Tranquil Boots coming up at about the same time, but still is lacking quite a bit before he's able to fully come online. Although he's going to get his level 6 at a faster time than the Mag's level 6 is probably a little bit more impactful immediately once you get it before Blink. And Pablo saving up towards an Orchid potentially on this Storm Spirit. Nothing really super interesting to talk about. Deep Ward placed out by Steph Style. And this will secure them a lot of space to push up in this top lane. If you take a look at the Dire Vision up towards top, they pretty much have it all covered. And Viper is going to be absolutely fine to sit wherever he wants to. For now, it's Power Treads and an Aquila, but sitting on 1800 gold on top of it all. This Viper is going to be able to get quite a bit inside this game. Pablo in the mid lane has just been farming away up against the Wind Ranger. Pretty much neck and neck, a slight advantage towards the Wind Runner, but not that much at all. Really, these lanes haven't dissolved, and it's quite interesting to see how little rotation we've had. Really, all it was a handful of Enchantress ganks, and only one of them really succeeded. And it looks like 4FC aren't going to be going anywhere soon. Strange to be going to decide to go for a Midas, and if you're having this much of a free time, I think it's a fine choice. After upgrading his boots and his Aquila, really not losing much fighting power, especially if they don't want to aggressively push any other lanes with a mechanism. You can kind of think of a mech as some sort of Midas, although you're looking to give your team more gold than just yourself by taking those towers and taking some earlier fights. Level 6s still have yet to come out from the supports. Level 4 in the Ancient Apparition over Magi, similar story, and pretty much the same for the Enchantress as well as Wind Ranger. We are going to have a Shackle attempt onto the Magnus. Doesn't latch, and Trilly going to be able to make his way back out with a nicely timed skewer. Haste run on the Windrunner. I was hoping would set up a kill, but for now, it's just going to be a little bit of time that Propolo would probably have been better spent in the middle lane. Yeah, Axe saving up towards that blink, 600 gold in the bank. Can't say it's very impressive farm for the Axe, but it's also not bad. He's died once, but has managed to find his levels. Maybe there's some sort of rotation power, but without another haste rune or any high impact rune of that sort, it really feels like the status quo is going to maintain itself until Elysium pull the trigger and bump this Mirana out of the bottom lane in some way, shape, or form and look to find a gank. Moonlight Shadow hasn't been leveled up by Pop either, and it really feels like it's just the static game that they want. Honestly, I think they could have picked a different carry if this is the game plan. I don't think Mirana really works that well in this situation. Maybe even go for something super greedy. Heck, Medusa comes to mind. Maybe that would have been a better choice for them, since they did have 5th pick. Although I'm not sure exactly what that was. There's going to be a skewer back. They found themselves covered, and that's going to be a kill, but the arrow lands onto Trilly. Finding a little angle through all of the creeps, jump in long range from the Storm Sword into Pop with a level 6 on the Steph style. They'll be able to bring him down 1 for 2 trade in favor of 4FC, and they'll be able to mop up some jungle creeps to boot. Very awkward arrow angle coming out from the Mirana, but it ends up working out for them. If I'm the Magnus, I'm going to be so happy from that, but maybe not happy for much longer, as Propolo is going to jump in looking for Steph style. He's going to be enchanted up, and now with the Fire Blast setting up for a Shackle. It is not going to latch, just a little bit far away from the trees, but it does not matter. Dunk! As the Axe has nothing of that auto attack. Untouchable is very strong in ability, and that's going to tie up our kill score in this bottom lane skirmish. And really, all it takes is just one hero to pull the trigger and come into that lane to break the lull. Double damage rune out from Purple on this Wind Ranger. Can do quite a bit of work on himself, or by himself, but I haven't really seen any Shackles latch or anything super impactful. Pablo coming in. They might be able to catch out the Axe, and this could be a very big kill. He's saving up a lot of gold towards this blink, and there you go. Jump in, pull back, skewer forward, and now they'll be able to jump him, although they are taunted. All they're taunted by is his dead corpse, rotting in the ground, and Stormstrike going to find himself a fresh kill. Pings go out by the Axe, and the Wind Ranger is going to make his way towards the north, although potentially Propolo in a very compromising position as he's getting wrapped around upon by the Storm as well as the Witch Doctor, although Storm doesn't have enough mana to really make a full-hearted jump. Strange Me, deep behind enemy lines, potentially going to bump into cover. He gets high ground vision onto him, but doesn't commit the ultimate, just going to tag him with one poison attack and then walk away. Even after a couple of kills, this game is still really slow paced. I mean, we're at 7 kills at 11 minutes, and although that's not terribly slow, it's really only been 2 fights, and the advantage is pretty negligible. 4FC's slight gold lead, but most of that's tied up inside the Midas of the Viper. Their actual fighting power is pretty much on par with Elysium, but it won't be as soon as Seren gets his hands onto a shiny new Blink Dagger for himself on the Axe, and Moonlight Shadow going to be spent. Were they actually looking to gank, however? It looks potentially for a gank onto the Viper, but I don't think that's actually going to net them anything, but maybe Pablo oversteps his bounds in mid. They have an Axe at the ready, and it looks like they want to go for it, but Pablo's hugging his tower, as he probably should be. They'll show off the Moonlight Shadow. Ignite going to go the way of Enchantress, but she brings in creeps from the north, and looks like Moonlight Shadow just going to be put on cooldown with not much else. Mirana going to jump onto the Midas train, matching the one on the Viper, although quite a bit later. Then Viper picked up that item. Doesn't really matter. It looks like both teams just want to farm it up. I really would have liked to see something along the lines of a Maelstrom for Pop, or just anything to actually get him aggressive. Setting me CS and 28 last hits, it's good. Don't get me wrong, but Mirana doesn't use those items as effectively as other heroes and really wants to be super far ahead, and I suppose that's the ideal behind the Midas. Potential fight brewing down towards bottom, TP's in, it's a rainbow of TP's, and they might be able to find Pablo. Long zip away into the creep wave, and now with zip TP. Pablo going to be able to make his way out the arrow, just going to be a little too late from Pop. And that's going to be a safe retreat coming out from 4FC, and even though they don't get any major objectives, they force those TPs not only to be on cooldown, but cost the enemy team about 400 gold, opening up space in mid, where Enchantress and Witch Doctor can put pressure onto this tier 1 without much fear, and with Viper to put some pressure onto the tier 2 tower up top. A pretty big overreaction, I'd say, by Elysium. That was just a Storm and Magnus, and although they might be able to take a tier 1 tower down in the bottom lane with Shockwave spam coming out from Trilly, it's going to delay it. We do have our mechanism now purchased up by the Viper. Strange Beast left completely alone, 2 kills to his name. And even after going for the Midas, finds that mech at a pretty good time. Potential fight brewing in mid. Viper looking for a wraparound again, and Storm Spirit showing his face in lane with the Soul Ring, as well as one Oblivion Staff can be very scary. Wind Ranger has poked her face in here as well, and the Viper hasn't yet to pull the trigger onto anything. The Sentry Ward's behind him, long zip in, they jump into the Wind Ranger, going to be able to drop an Ancient Apparition Ice Blast into Pablo, he does not dodge. Witch Doctor ultimate channeled from the sidelines, now Viper Strike into Propolo, into the Centaur War Stomp, that's going to the end of Wind Ranger's life, she can't even get off that stomp. Mirana mops up the Wind Ranger, but leaps away from an Impetus. Pop is dropping low, but is it low enough? Pursued out by the Centaur that's on 27 HP, there's no way that's killing him, but in the meantime, in the fight proper, Viper mops up another one, and the Ancient Apparition now pursues after Hugo. Slowed down by the poison attack, is going to be dropped low. Stormster goes for a long zip forward onto Pop-Up. He just doesn't have enough mana to do it. The Ogre ends up losing his life. One more auto attack from Viper ought to do it, and that's a mega kill spree and a triple kill for Strange Beast. Still hasn't had enough of this chasing the Mirana. Pop-Up's a little too fast with those phase boots, and with the leap at the ready, unlikely that they'd actually be able to get the kill, but still 4FC find themselves in a very favorable trade, only losing the Witch Doctor, and you can't ask for much more. It was pretty awkward initiation on either side, really getting a clean jump onto either one, but immediately after the fact, 4FC find themselves a tier 1 tower down the bottom lane. A lot of gold advantage going the way. Jumping mid with the call from the Axe, finding out Era's Loco, and Axe is going to be able to mop up that kill, or Wind Ranger for that matter. No ultimate from the Axe needed. They'll just power shot him down. This Witch Doctor, not really having a grand time in the last few minutes, and actually it's going to be a blink up for that Viper afterwards. Going for a lot of these mid-game tier items, but it's completely fine. His ability to jump into the enemy team and just be a general menace is pretty huge. Although it's not going to be the tankiest of all Vipers you've ever seen, is still going to be holding his own. With maxed out corrosive skin as well as with the mechanism up, the 1000 HP pool is a little bit deceptive. Strange Bee is still going to be doing quite a lot of work. Elysium right now, even after getting up that Blink Dagger for the Axe, really haven't been able to make great use of it, and are starting to kind of fall back a bit. So then we're going to be waiting a little bit longer till we have that Blink Dagger for the Magnus, but not going to be too long. Just a handful of creeps, one more Shockwave ought to do it. That's going to be Trilly picking up that ever so crucial Blink. There's a stun going out in mid onto the Wind Ranger, but it looks like that was just passing stun coming out from the Witch Doctor, not much else. Maelstrom up for the Wind Ranger, but still, these heroes that theoretically can have a very high impact on Elysium's team just haven't been doing that much and not rotating around. It feels like they're very comfortable in their ability to take a late game engagement up against 4FC, and I'm not sure if that's the right call. Maybe it is. Only time will tell, I think, more than anything. Strange Bee, as well as Trilly, looking down towards bottom. This Ancient Apparition, if he shows his face, or even Pop-Up for that matter, could be in a whole heap of trouble. They have a Blinking Viper and a Blinking Mag, currently hiding behind the trees. Blink forward, RP, solo on to Pop-Up into the Viper Strike. They are going to get an Ancient Apparition Ice Blast returned on them, but it only connects on a Trilly, and they've already blown up the Rana. Their prize has been taken, and there's nothing that Elysium can do to actually chase forward, or is there? Axe has a Blink at the ready, but can't actually connect with them. Viper with the Blink Dagger to match the one on the Axe is the one on the Magnus. They'll just find this as a high priority kill. Over going to bump into poor Eris Loco, and Hugo going to punch him a couple times, but I don't think this is going to get a kill by himself, but with the Shackle as well as Power Shot coming in from the Wind Ranger, that definitely will be so. Axe potentially looking for a little bit of blood. Viper going to blink down the low ground, and loving arms of the Wind Ranger. The Wind Ranger can't actually look for much more after the fact, and you know what? This game really isn't all that interesting. Both teams are just kind of chilling. The objectives that have been taken have been pretty limited, and all of them in the favor of 4FC. And for the most part, that's where their lead's coming from. Just that and taking favorable engagements. Especially the Viper. 5-0-1 has been doing a great job. But honestly, I don't think either of these teams should feel so comfortable with just sitting back and passively playing. It really feels like 4FC want to wait for this to work it out on Pablo before they actually start doing much of anything. Pablo is getting very close to that, just 400 gold or so, till he has that inside the bank and ready to pull out towards himself on the Storm Spirit, and then he can be a real pacemaker for his team, and pace setter? Not pacemaker, that's a hard thing. Either way. Yeah, it really feels like that's going to be the choice for them. Once they have that, I'd really like to see 4FC step up the aggression. You have Blinks galore on most of your heroes. You have Enchantress that's going to be working towards a Aghanim Scepter, but even before that, Impetus doing a truck ton of damage towards the enemy team, especially if they leap away and don't manage to disjoint it. Alrighty then, 4FC going to set their sights on the tier 1 tower in mid. The last tier 1 tower standing on the Radiant side, and it looks like they're going to be able to take it. They have one creep from the Enchantress, that Wildwing Ripper, not going to be long for this world, and probably times out even before he dies from the tower. Maybe he just gets a little close. Arrows are going to be thrown out over the sidelines. The tier 1 tower has already been fallen. Strange B going to mop up that CS, and really, or rather, last hit. But not much else that is going to be happening. Both teams posturing, but Elysium don't want to mount a proper defense here. Rana going to pursue farming up towards top, and it is a Yasha build now up for this Rana. The Magnus, deep behind enemy alliance, going to spot out covered, but with no detection, can't actually pursue the Ancient Apparition, now forced to skew our way, but that is going to mean that everything misses, the arrow flies behind him, and really there's not much else that they can do to pursue. They have the axe invised up, Saren can't find an angle, and not going to be able to get that jump. Moonlight Shadow on cooldown, now 4FC have that ever-precious Orchid Malevolence up for the Storm Spirit, and can start looking for some fights of their own, but Elysium looks like they're going to push up towards top. This poor Witch Doctor, Eris Loco, I swear. Every time I see a kill taken by Elysium, it's him. They'll look for a call, but a call onto what? Magnus is going to be able to blink away safely. Concussive shot onto Saren behind the enemy tower. Arrow going to fly through, absorbed by Strange, because the Witch Doctor Death Ward is going to be channeled continuously into that axe over in the sidelines. Shirley looking to make a wraparound. He does have an RP at the ready, but only about half HP. Long zip in into the backlines as Pablo going to focus on the Hugo. Short zip in, RP onto 2. But the multicast flying out into Shirley is probably going to end his life. Or no, with the skewer back and the shockwave, he actually lives. And they'll earn him through that ignite damage. Isn't enough. Voodoo Restoration survives on very low HP, and Trilly is going to survive by the skin of his teeth. A 3 for nail in the favor of 4 friends plus Trilly. Elysium probably should have been there in the first place, and just a really awkward way to start that fight. That Death Ward channel coming out for the Witch Doctor being saved by an arrow. Strange B going to take the grenade for his lowly support, and well executed reaction coming out from 4FC, and they'll be able to take a tier 2 at tower after the fact, and that's really the biggest difference between Elysium and 4FC. Even if Elysium find a kill in their favor, their ability to transition into tower pushes is very limited. Focus fire from the Wind Ranger, although in theory can be a very nice tower pushing skill, isn't enough in and of itself, especially when you're not taking very many of these fights on your own terms. And really, it's all been up to 4FC to dictate the pace of the game. Even though it has been a pretty slow one, that's perfectly fine for them. Currently sitting at a 10,000 net worth advantage. Whoop, long zipping inside mid. They find themselves covered, and my goodness, look at him fall. Pablo going to be called out by Saren, now dunked down by the Axe himself. Axe still running over in the sidelines, and Trilly is forced to retreat. Ancient Apparition Ice Boss flying through, Shackle connects, and that's going to be a very, very dead Magnus. And finally, Elysium find themselves something. It costs him a buyback on the Ancient Apparition, which means that his minus and subsequent Aghanim Scepter is going to be a distant dream for him. But still, it's going to be a large gold swing, and most importantly, experience swing in their favor for the Axe and the Marana both. Just take a look at that. That's 1500 experience from just getting 2 kills, and quite a lot of gold to boot. But still, I don't really feel that the items are going to mean enough for Elysium to really take them back in this game. They're going to need to do that a handful more times before they're really in fit fighting shape. Roshan, although it's not the fastest Roche coming out from 4FC, with the amount of sustain that they have from Mech on the Viper as well as Voodoo Restoration from the Witch Doctor, and the threat of having a Roche fight with all their heroes, and most importantly, a hero that benefits very heavily from having that Aegis, Pablo. I think they should probably set their sights onto it. Maybe not immediately, but if they get a pick-off, speaking of pick-offs, Elysium going to look for one of the, or for themselves, as Saren, Hugo, and Propolo going to smoke up and look towards top. Blink on the Wind Ranger, I'm not sure if that's been shown off to the enemy team or not. It's going to be a useful tool if they can actually catch out this Viper. They ping out the large camp, and that's exactly where Strange B is. Let's see if they find the angle. Blink in, looking for the call. Call is going to come out onto Strange B. Now the angle onto the Shackle. They are going to be able to shackle him, but actually doesn't latch. He could have just moved a little to the right, but will it matter anyway? Strange B surviving for a little bit longer than he probably should have, but still ends up falling, even with the Aghanim Scepter being delivered out to him. Now Steph Style in a whole heap of trouble. He's going to net down Hugo, and that's going to buy him a little bit of space, and now Steph Style makes his way out. The threat of backup is going to be enough to keep him safe, and in the meantime, Ancient Apparition dies. I didn't actually see how that went down. I assume it was the Storm Spirit, but he also loses his life. Probably picked the wrong fight to go ahead and look at. Before FC again find themselves losing their 2 highest farming heroes. Now Shackle going to latch on Eris Loco, but a jump in RP onto 3. Where's the follow-up for it? The Paralyzing Cast bounces to creeps, and they don't have very much of anything. They are going to channel the Death Ward finally, and now it looks like it's going to be Hugo to lose his life, and it looks like indeed he will do so over on the sidelines. Ice Boss lands onto Trilly. Trilly low, but not low enough. They are going to start impetusing into Saren, and with the net, it looks like that's going to be enough to kill him off. The Dict is going to be enough to tick him down, and Elysium don't even find a tier 1 tower after the fact, although it is put low. 4FC are leaking their Storm and their Viper quite effectively. Oh, double damage from Popolo, going strong into Seth style, and even with the Untouchable not going to be enough. Looking for the skewer back, it's going to miss. And now Trilly in a heap of trouble. That double damage rune on the Wind Ranger going to work. And now Trilly going to lose his life. Double kill for Popolo as he finds very nice opportunity to find that jump. Yeah, but as I was saying, 4FC are starting to leak their heroes every once in a while, and the advantage is starting to lose its grip. Right now down to about 7,000 or so in the gold, and experience is getting close to zeroed out, which is incredible. Alright then, so what do 4FC do about this to stop leaking these heroes? I think what they need to do is find a pick off first and foremost, go look for a smoke, and then go into Roshan I was talking about earlier. I think that's probably the best course of action for them, and just make it a lot more comfortable to go for that tier 2 tower down towards the bottom lane. Elysium are picking up a little bit of momentum, and the comeback definitely is real. Even though they have a super farmed Viper, these items aren't as explosive. It's more a linear progression on this Viper. Aghanim Scepter, although a useful tool at cutting around Elysium and doing a large chunk of damage, his right-click power is pretty limited, and it's gonna start falling off here pretty soon. Fortunately enough for Elysium, or for 4FC I should say, Elysium's Ancient Apparition really has nothing to his name. They scout out the Roshan with the Ice Blast, but that's pretty much his most useful contribution. That and the taking away of the mechanism heal from 4FC. Covered really has not had a good game, matching pretty much the same story of the Witch Doctor. 0-4 and 1, and 0-3 and 5 on both of them. Although the Witch Doctor has had a larger impact, all things considered. He's going to be going for the Midas next onto Covered, but this Midas, it's going to be coming at such a late tick. Honestly, I don't think it's going to impact anything for the most part, and even though it's not going to have an immediate impact, or much of an impact at all, it's probably still going to be the course of action for him. You've already committed towards the goal of his face, and although power treads would be nice and all, you really want to propel yourself towards the level 11. And on an Ancient Apparition, there really isn't a clean way to do so. Up towards top, they find a jump into Pablo. Pablo dunked! And that's going to be the end of his life. Nicely chain stun by Elysium, and an effective use of that Moonlight Shadow by them. Another pick-off, and I said they need to do it a couple more times, but they're getting very close to actually evening out this game, and really making it scary for 4FC. Although they had a very commanding lead, it hasn't been doing much. Shackle nicely latched onto Steph Style. Propolo, however, without the Focus Fire, can't actually put much damage in Steph Style afterwards, and instead eats him to face. They bring in Trilly from the backlines, but no opening for an RP skewer back yet going to manifest itself, as Trilly going to go over towards the sidelines. He might bump into this Ancient Apparition. That would be a very awkward exchange for Covered in particular. But for now, it's going to be the action diffused. Although 4FC have found themselves inside the enemy woods with an opportunity to ward. Oh, this is completely spotted out. Sentry Ward has already been committed down to this spot, and Elysium are going to make quick work of that vision coming out from 4FC. Aghanim Scepter is up for the Enchantress, and going to be a very useful tool for them to have. This Enchantress has been given a lot of space in the backlines to throw out impetuses consistently throughout the fight, and it is going to be something that Elysium aren't going to really be prepared for. Although BKB is in the works for the Mirana, presumably with that Ogre Club, it's not going to be there for quite some time in Wind Ranger. Really all she has is one Wind Run to actually stop the damage from Impetus coming out. And although that's nice and all, it is still going to be doing quite a lot for 4FC. By no means are they out of it, but it's a situation that they probably didn't see themselves being in about 5 minutes ago when they were sitting on a 10,000 gold and experience advantage. 4FC potentially going to lose yet another. Pablo being stalked out by those Wind Rangers. She's invised up, but his Remnant did pop. Pablo should know that something's up, and it looks like it has been pinged out by him, or by somebody at the very least. Needs to be careful. He's hugging his tier 2 tower, and this is a very safe place for Pablo to be, and he shouldn't get caught out at all. Bringing in some backup over in the sidelines. It looks like for a first time in a long time we're going to see a full 5-on-5 engagement, or at least a large-scale engagement at any number. Tier 1 tower up towards top, going to be glyphed by 4FC as Trilly comes in from the south and storms through it over in the sidelines. Elysium know that something's up. Long zip in over towards the north. They find themselves Saren. Where's the extra fight going to break out? They orchided him up and Viper Strike. The damage is going to be immense, and he's not going to be able to TP out of that in a million years. It is going to be dropped down, and it's just going to be one clean kill for 4FC and still keeping their tier 1 tower. Hugo has a TP scroll at the ready, but is in a very precarious situation. Ogre Magi is going to think better of it, and he wants to stick around, although for what reasons I'm not so sure. But he's actually going to be able to accomplish here. It really feels like it's going to be not much at all. Just wants to wait to see if another fight's going to break out in a different lane before fully committing towards a TP back to base. 4FC going to pull back and go into farming, and unfortunately the caster's curse is real. We actually didn't see a very huge fight in that last engagement. Storm Spirit and Witch Doctor, that's not going to stop them from actually looking for it, but really we have kind of slowed down by quite a bit. Quite a bit. And really this game, even though the kills in numbers aren't terrible, seeing about 1 kill a minute, the actual action around the map has been very limited. Aghanim Scepter up for the Wind Ranger. As far as other big item pickups, no! Radiant's Courier! Snagged out by Strange Bee, just caught that at the corner of my eye, flying right over his face, spotted out by this nicely placed Guy Observer Ward. Now long zip in, they find Propolo as well as the Mirana, going to be able to disjoint the Viper Strike. No, that actually does connect. Hastro on the Wind Ranger, going to keep herself alive. Pop-up might not be so lucky. The Viper is on the front lines, looking for the RP, only going to connect on the Propolo. Storm Spirit loses life with the Witch Doctor ultimate being channeled. Propolo going to be able to run away with the wind run, but not going to disjoint the Viper Strike. He is going to tick down as the fight potentially is going to be pursued on the other end, but for now it's just a very even 1-for-1 trade. Storm Spirit for Wind Ranger. 4FC are in a more commanding position as far as their map control inside this game, and where they're actually exerting their dominance. If we take a look at that, they have decent vision across the entire map and are able to fairly comfortably farm on their side. Ogre Magi is going to be spotted out over in the sidelines, but they don't immediately spot him out, although now Ogre is thrown in Ignite, could be in a decent amount of trouble with a Blinking Strange Bee as well as a Blinking Trilly coming out from seemingly nowhere if he doesn't have enough backup. But that backup is coming in with Hugo, Saren, as well as Pop Pop over in the sidelines. Moonlight shadowed up. Where's the Sentry Vision coming out from the Dire? One up towards the north, but that's about it. Looks like they've spotted it out, and I don't think this gank is going to net them anything, and maybe there's going to be a turn coming out from 4FC. No, they decided to TP the Storm Spirit up towards top, so they're not very interested in it. Steph Style, spotted out, potentially over in the sidelines, going to preemptively pop those nice little Nature's Attendants, and then go back towards his well. Fight averted by both sides. Okay then, back towards firing again, I suppose. Blade Mail's been freshly picked up by Saren, but without the Courier for another minute is probably going to have that delayed, at least by some time. Wants to be farming, at least for now. We have the BKB up for the Mirana, but still this BKB... Oh my goodness! Never mind, we don't have BKB anymore for Mirana. That's on cooldown, although the enemy team doesn't know it. Pop Pop has misclicked that, I assume, while he was just trying to switch around the slots for his items. An unfortunate happening for Elysium. I was about to say that even with the BKB, he's pretty lackluster as far as his damage potential is concerned. 126 plus 57 on a single target really doesn't cut the cake, and I think the Pop-Up's kind of missed his opportunity. He's going to be sitting back looking for an arrow. They'll get a tier 1 tower. Shackle going to latch on the Steph Style, and this time with the Focus Fire, Steph Style is completely screwed. They'll zip in. Now counter initiation on the Propolo. Silenced up. Propolo is probably going to die here. They just need a little bit more damage, and it's going to come from Storm Spirit. Although locked up by the chilling or cold feet, it's not going to be enough as Viper mops up the ancient apparition over in the sidelines. Apologies for that one. Magnus RP is going to be whiffed, and oh my goodness, the Force Staff and maneuverability items coming out from Elysium going to come out huge, just not able to suck them back in to the vacuum that is Trilly. Still a favorable 1-for-2 fight, even though they blow the RP. I suppose you can say RP was used and they win a fight if you want to be nice to 4FC. Inside the Roshan pit now, they have an Aghanim Scepter Witch Doctor ultimate, so taking this Roshan is very scary, or taking this Roshan fight, I should say, is very scary for Elysium, and I don't think they'll be able to do so or want to do so. Pablo drop low up towards top, but he'll be able to make a zip away as the rest of his team goes for the Roshan. They lose their tier 1 tower in the top lane, but honestly that doesn't mean very much of anything. That tower was probably slated to fall sooner rather than later. Mechanism off from Strange Bee is going to sustain them as they finish up this Roshan, and Elysium aren't able to find anything else after that tier 1 tower falls in the top lane. 14-20 our kill score, at least for now, and that's probably where it's going to stay until 4FC make a push down in either bottom or mid. They will have to tend to their top lane and put a little bit of pressure there before they do so, as to stop Elysium from actually going for any large counter-pushing measures, and there's a decent amount of farm there that they'd really love to have in their pockets. No real reason to stop it. Smoke up from the rest of their heroes, sitting behind Strange Bee. It's a fairly obvious smoke, I suppose. They aren't showing up on any other parts of the map, but then again, Elysium's map vision is also pretty limited. All they have is that one ward up towards top, so maybe it's not so obvious. Ogre Magi is going to show himself, blink forward, looking for the Viper Strike, but going to be fogged out by Hugo as he makes his way up towards the high ground, going to survive. Blink away from the axe. He's going to be fine. Or not even a blink away. I believe that was just TP. Over in the sidelines, Blink Skewer, they found themselves covered, and covered is going to be covered in enemy heroes, but not before they're able to get the call and kill onto the Magnus. With Structural Ultimate being channeled, but with the Moonlight Shadow, nobody's actually taking any damage. The detection wasn't on the ground fast enough. They had no smoke, or no dust, or anything of the sort, and, well, that fight, not looking great. Shackle going to connect onto Strange Bee, zipping from Storm Spirit, jumping into the Wind Ranger. They are going to be able to focus down Propolo, but now Pablo in a bit of trouble. He has the Aegis at his disposal, however, and still can be comfortable to lose the axe after the fact, and now look for more. Hugo blunk upon by the Viper, and now with some impetus backup from Stefstyle is just going to lose his life. As much as he wanted to get that Fire Blast on the Enchantress, there's nothing else that you can do, and that second initiation round for 4FC really doing wonders. That double damage rune on Pablo really showing its worth on the Storm Spirit throughout this game. Ancient Personalized Boss flying through is going to connect on pretty much everybody, but not really going to be doing much. It's level 1, no Aghanim Scepter up, and they'll be able to heal this one off very quickly, as soon as Viper gets the mana from Mechanism, that is. As far as the Arcane Boot situation, it's very limited. Arrow lands into Stefstyle, but Stefstyle should be fine. I don't think there's really anything you're going to do to jump onto him, but Pablo is going to jump onto Pop, wanting to punish him for going for that arrow onto his friendly Enchantress. Pablo and company going to put some pressure on this tier 2 tower in the middle lane, and looks like they're going to be able to mop it up very comfortably. 4FC find themselves one tier 2 tower, and I don't think there's really much of anything stopping them from going for a second down towards the bottom lane. 12 Bloodstone charges up for the Storm Spirit, and he still has the Aegis at his disposal, and is very shortly going to have a BKB. I don't think they're going to wait for that to go for the next tier 2 tower, but they probably could. More deep wards being placed out by Stefstyle, although one of them, I believe, was at least spotted out by the Radiant side. I think this one isn't going to be long for this world. But even so, 4FC's amount of control they're exerting on the map is quite impressive, and Elysium just haven't been able to match anything similar. This Viper is very closely nearing 6-slotted territory at this point. It's probably time to consider replacing out the Mechanism and the Midas in whatever order you deem more useful. Strange Bee, for now, is just going to pop up those boots for but I'd really like to see him go into some sort of major damage item. Monkey King Bar, I think, is a good choice for him, if he wants to go for it. Finally, we have Mirana picking up some damage items. It's going to be a Chrysalis for Pop, but still, this Mirana, 4-3-2, although it's not a bad KDA by any means, it's also not that great. I really would have liked to see this Mirana get a lot more active. It doesn't really feel like this Mirana is having the effect that a position 1 carry that's at the second of the net worth chart at 35 minutes should be having. I really think they could have picked up most other heroes in order to accomplish the job that Pop-Up has done this game. Not to say Pop-Up's been playing poorly or anything, but I think just missing out on a couple of opportunities to play aggressively. 4FC, down towards the bottom lane, going to put pressure on a tier 2 tower, and it looks like they're going to take it. As Elysium are going to have nothing to do with bottom. They want to take a tier 2 tower up towards top in return, or at the very least try to pressure them back. They do have the maxed out focus fire with Aghanim Scepter on the Wind Ranger, so their pushing power is pretty nice. But then again, 4FC, I don't think this is going to stop them. They're more comfortable taking a fight inside the base, especially since the tier 2 tower has already fallen. And although we see the Wind Ranger pecking at this tier 2, the Glyph is going to delay that long enough for 4FC to continue the push down towards the tier 3 tower and bottom. Zipping from Pablo. Doesn't find anything. Pop is able to leap away. But right now, this is scary. Tier 2 for tier 2 tower trade. Right now, it's pretty even, but things could get spicy very shortly as soon as anybody decides to pull the trigger. Ignite going to be thrown out by the Ogre Magi. Blink away, going to disjoint that from Strange Bee. The other Ignite does land on the Magnus, and that's unfortunate for 4FC. They aren't going to have the Blink on Mag for a couple more seconds yet. But it doesn't really feel like it's matters. It's still going to be the pressure applied by 4FC as this tier 3 tower gets chipped away. Pablo's Aegis is going to be expiring here in about 30 seconds. They want to use it as fast as possible if they've actually kept the timing to a T. Zip away from the Storm Spirit. Right now, this seems like a pretty good time to fight. The Ancient Personal Ice Blast is freshly onto cooldown, but they have to wait for the next creep wave. Pablo is low, but I think this Aegis is more likely going to expire. They only have about 5 seconds left or so of it, and it looks like that's exactly where it's going to be, and maybe that's enough to pull back 4FC as Elysium find themselves high ground defending. Pablo's Aegis wears off, and that's going to be all she wrote. 4FC going to pull back. Once they get the BKB, however, on the Storm, maybe they can look for another aggressive move, but it looks like 4FC have slowed down enough to where they just want to chill, wait for that next round of items, and they have been able to get back up to and maintain a little bit more than a 10,000, almost 11,000 net worth lead, and similar in the experience graph, pretty much as per usual. Still, it's not breaking them high ground, and their high ground breaking ability is really reliant on them finding an angle to take a fight. Over in the sidelines, Axe call onto Strange B. They will be able to focus him down with the Shackle latching, but no, the Death Ward flies through. It's going to be a triple kill for Trilly as he mops up all of them. Nice RP skewer coming out from Trilly, and all they lose is the Viper. Gank from Elysium. Looking towards that Viper was very risky. Now long zipping in mid. Pablo can afford to do this with 12 Bloodstone charges. It's not going to be the fastest kills for sure, but it's just the Ancient Apparition. He has no backup, and it's going to be yet another Bloodstone charge for the Storm. Blink Dagger up for the Witch Doctor, but that's the combo I was talking about inside the draft. RP into the Aghanim Scepter Death Ward. It's sick. It is absolutely disgusting how much damage that can pump out, and Elysium just got it. Felt that at the receiving end. Buyback from the Mirana, but a solo Mirana isn't going to stop this push. They might need to buy back from a little bit more, and the Ancient Apparition is going to be that little bit more. For now, 4FC are going to be taking this fight at probably a 4v4, as Ogre's going to be respawning very shortly, and maybe they'll be able to get the tier 3 tower, but not much more after that. Still, Pablo has that freshly picked up BKB, and I think they found themselves an opening. Tier 3 tower in the bottom lane is going to be forfeit by Elysium. They're waiting for the Axe and Wind Ranger, really the heroes that want to be starting these fights. Multicast onto Pablo, but it's only a 2 times and not enough. Blink Skewer, they find themselves. The Ogre is going to Yule Scepter himself up in the air to delay a little bit with the Mirana ultimate spent. They are going to pull back. 4FC have taken their objective, and now they're going to make the conservative play and just wait up. They have an, regen rune waiting for them in the bottom rune spot for the Storm Spirit to fill up his bottle and really just be a happy camper all around. And why wait? Empower is still a wonderful spell to have on all of your carries, buffing them up to a pretty ridiculous balance. It's an extra 40 damage, or 70 damage on the Storm Spirit, I should say. And for the Viper, it's an extra 55, which can't really be underestimated. That's pretty much like handing them a free Demon Edge and a little bit more than that for the Storm. A Relic plus 10. That's pretty slick. Speaking of Demon Edges, we have now one freshly picked up by Strange B, and I kind of hope this is Monkey King Bar for him just to deal with Wind Ranger and her Wind Run, as well as a potential Butterfly coming up from the Mirana. But if he went for a Daedalus, I would also not be opposed to that by any means. 4FC grouping up mid as they want to look to break the high ground, or at least pressure Elysium to a point where if they find an opportunity to take a fight, they will be able to go into high ground. If you just let them passively farm, ooh, long zip in, going down towards bottom, they find the Ogre, slowed down, Hugo in a whole heap of trouble, as Pablo is going to be able to drop him down, forcing out the BKB, I suppose is a slight win for Hugo. He's bringing him back up, but not fast enough, as the dire backup is coming in a little bit faster. That's going to be Hugo down, blink forward for a Viper strike onto the Axe, and that's going to be canceling his blink dagger. No, never mind, he's actually able to disjoint that projectile coming out from Strange Bleed. The full fight potential from 4FC is up and ready, and they have their regen running on Pablo. As good as an Aegis, or maybe as close to as he can. He finds Pop-Pop with that blind jump in. BKB is going to come out, and he's able to survive. Pablo being focused fired down by the Wind Ranger, and that ultimate from the Ancient Apparition is doing quite a lot of work. Pop-Pop forced away, and 4FC, it looks like they're going to be forced to do the same. Strange Bleed blinks away with the BKB. Steph Style loading in those impetuses with the Mask of Madness activated, but for now, it's just traded blows. 4FC need a little bit of time to regen up on the Storm Spirit. With the help of bottles and urns, it is going to be pretty quickly over. Arrow flying through, not going to connect on anything. Splits the wickets right between the Witch Doctor and Viper. They'll wait for the next creep wave, but maybe, just maybe, 4FC have found themselves an opening. With 14 Bloodstone charges on the Storm Spirit, it does not take very long for them to get back up and ready to go for these fights. Jackal attempt, going to latch on to Strange B, not able to disjoint that. Now multicast 3 times, they'll jump in with the Witch Doctor, but the Viper's already down. Yule Scepter going to channel the ultimate, or cancel the ultimate channeling coming up for the Witch Doctor, but the RP and pullback is on 2, and they are going to lose the Axe as well. Buyback from the Axe and from the Viper as 4FC want to go for more. Those impetuses, holy cow, 2, 3 into the poor Ancient Apparition. They are going to be able to get a call into Pablo as he zips deep into the enemy base and is forced back by the damage coming out from the Mirana. Arrow flying through, probably not going to connect onto anybody. Blink away from the Witch Doctor, going to keep him safe, but the melee barracks is going to be taking a lot of heat. 4FC, although they don't get a good Witch Doctor ultimate channel, the impetus is coming out from the Enchantress, and a nice RP skewer from Trilly is going to win them that fight, and now it's a full lane in their favor, and they're not going to stop here. The Wind Ranger's down, the Wind Ranger has no buyback. Strange B comfortably on the front lines, and they'll have a Death Ward cooling down in about 40 seconds, and already have the RP with that refresher used by Trilly. Didn't need the double RP, he just needs it to use it again. BKB is purchased up by the Wind Ranger, but that's not going to help you when you're dead, and your tier 3 tower is under siege. Tier 3 tower in mid, looks like it's going to fall very swiftly into the favor of 4FC. The arrow's going to fly through, again, doesn't connect. And now tier 3 tower is down into the melee barracks. They'll focus, and now 4FC, they'll pop the mechanism on the Viper and go to town. Buyback on the Viper, more than worth it. Zip away from the Storm Spirit, going to keep him safe. Strange Bee eats an HF Persian Ice Blast, and the melee barracks hasn't been taken. 4FC are going to pull back and potentially go for a Roche, and they also do need to be worried a little bit about their top lane, as that's being pushed in by creeps, and mid. It just lost tier 2 tower. Moonlight Shadow used as Elysium want to find a jump onto 4FC at this juncture, and are going to ping out the Roshan pit. Zip away from the Storm Spirit. Pablo going to make himself scarce. He has a regeneration rune again. This Storm Spirit could not be happier. And also 4,000 gold. I suppose that helps too with the amount of happiness that he can be feeling at the moment. Alrighty then, for now, Elysium are going to be forced to pull back, but now an innate advantage, or disadvantage. Right now, although they can clear out these super creeps with the Maelstrom, power shot from Propoloco, it is, or Propolo, my goodness, sorry about that. It is more than enough to keep these lanes pressured out, but it's also looking pretty problematic for them. Storm Spirit down towards bottom, going to go for a long zip and finds himself covered. They do have Hugo, but they can't do anything to this. BK beats Storm. He'll finish up the H version. They're going to focus tower down Pablo, but now the RP onto 3. Where's the Witch Doctor and his ultimate? He's going to throw in the paralyzing gas. Ultimate unleashed, and that's Saren and Propolo down. 4FC find themselves a 4 for nail and now look for a little bit more. That little bit more might be the Roshan, as they want to give a second life towards Pablo, but they could also just go straight down mid. Mirana's the only one surviving, and even though they don't know it, that's the only one that's going to be up for quite some time. They don't have buyback, and now Pop might be losing his life. Pull back Pablo, they're going to be able to make a turn, and that ballsy play from the Mirana is going to be punished heavily. 4FC, looks like this is a free Roshan for them. No buybacks on the Radiant side. In fact, no buybacks for quite some time. 420 gold, or 720 gold on the Ogre before he has it up, and cooldown on most of the others, and Wind Ranger doesn't have it either. 4FC, I think they probably should just push down mid and go for that mid lane of barracks. Then you can fall back and go for the Roshan. I don't think there's anything that Elysium are going to be able to do to stop you. That ultimate combo from 4FC is really, really good, I must say. And the Magnus play has been pretty on point. 7-4 and 13. It really feels like he has been one of the, if not the MVP for this game for 4FC's side. Strange Bee, of course, he's farmed as all hell. Of course, the Storm Spirit's been doing well, but I think if anybody stands out, it's Trilly. Always finding these nice openings for the RP. There was one whiffed in mid, but that can be forgiven, as most of his other ones have been hitting onto 3+ heroes. Tower up top is also going to take a lot of damage. The Mirana's down for 30 seconds. What can Elysium actually do to fight? At this time, I actually wouldn't be surprised to see them call GG, because it really feels like it's over. If they lose these mega creeps, I think it's only formalities at that point, and they are going to concede them. They'll look for a last hurrah as they shackle up Pablo, but with the mechanism for Viper and 4-staff support, he's still not falling. BKB forced out. He is going to look for a short zip, and will survive. However, the axe not going to be so lucky. Witch Doctor ultimate finally canceled by the Evil Scepter coming out from the Ogre, but Covered is also going to lose his life. Impetus 1, Impetus 2 into the Ogre. Unfortunately for the Enchantress, there was an uphill miss involved. Enchantress going to kill off the Wind Ranger afterwards, and now Hugo is going to be mopped up, as that's a triple kill for Steph Style. Solo RP on the pop-up, and that's GG, well played. And a good game it was by 4FC. Throughout the game, it felt like they just had nice control, and although it was a slower pace than at least I personally like seeing, it was well executed, and they definitely deserve this Game 1 victory. That said, it's not over yet. It is a best of 2 series, and we'll have to see if Elysium are going to be able to come back and make a 1-1 in the best of 2. I've been GrandSV here on HeflaTV, and we'll be back shortly with game number 2 up next.